Okay, hello, welcome to We Are Cosmic Nature, the podcast. My name is Kelsey, and we're keeping it real over here. I have so much inspiration and messages and wisdom that are like ready to flow through, which is why this podcast might not be as fancy, I guess, as other ones. But what matters is there's lots to talk about. And as we move into the Aquarian age, we are remembering our authenticity. We're remembering the power of community as well. And Aquarius rules the higher mind and really our connection to source in a way that's kind of more of a Pisces thing. But in terms of information and innovation and really taking that connection and putting it through the world. So, we can look at Pisces for that oneness. And almost as we kind of retrograde through the chart, where that oneness um, is displayed through that Aquarian energy in terms of connection in community and receiving ideas and taking action and moving it forward. We look back to tribal times, ancient civilizations where information was processed and shared, and wisdom was um, moved through the community through story and through sharing and through communicating. And that's a huge part of this podcast is feeling connected and feeling maybe a resonance and a remembering with the stories that are shared on this podcast. So today I have a conversation with one of my really good friends, Taylor Chapman, who has completed her studies in Feng Shui with a Feng Shui master, I believe is the title. And she's learned so much. She's put so much work into this. And we talk about how we as humans and us individual like me and Taylor, we share stories in this way about how we intuitively know how when you walk into a space, you can feel the energy in the room. And perhaps you are also a sensitive individual and you've recognized different spaces or different homes that you walked into and you're like, either things are flowing and the night's good and the vibe's good and the energy's good, or something it just isn't aligning. And really, we all have our own personal needs in terms of our space. So, we all have our own. I speak about in the episode, our physical needs and our emotional needs. Well, our spatial needs is a thing too. So we're talking about feng shui today, and it's such a beautiful ancient teaching. And I'm really excited for you to hear this conversation. We Taylor mentioned, there's only so much she can share in terms of like specifics for the collective, because it really does come down to the individual. So she'll talk about my year, which is the year of the monkey, and what's coming up. But it's worth digging in a little bit and finding out what year you were born in terms of the Chinese zodiac or the Lunar New Year. She describes her sort of branch of feng shui. It's called the Flying Star. So yeah, it's worth knowing for this year, because there might be certain elements or directions and things that you can bring into your space to help your frequency align with the frequency of 2023 to the best of your ability. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and we will see you on the next one. Okay, so I have one of my dear friends, Taylor, who I call Tay all the time, on here to share her wisdom and her magic with the listeners. So, welcome, Tay. Thanks for coming and chatting.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. Okay, so we're going to talk about feng shui today, which is something that I uh connected with honestly from a young age. I remember being like 7 or 8, and like I found a feng shui book at the library and I started rearranging my room based on whatever I could gather from like 8 years old, and like I would put toys uh in certain places in my room so that the energy wouldn't like escape wrong or come in wrong or like bounce off the mirror wrong. So I'm just so happy that, well, I'll let Tay introduce herself, but that you've dove so deep into this topic and we're gonna like nerd out on it. So welcome. Would you like to share a little about yourself and how you found your way to Feng Shui?
Absolutely. And also, I love that you were such a conscious child. I was definitely not doing that at 8 years old. So kudos to you. My future child is like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, my name is Taylor, like Kelsey said. How I got into feng shui. So I've really been interested in energetics and spirituality and really anything to do with the home from a young age. While Kelsey was over there feng shuiing her space, I guess I was doing that in some sort of way. I was always rearranging my room and always moving my posters around and always wanting to like paint things. Like at one point, my room was half bubblegum pink and half neon green, but it's the story for another day. But yeah, so that's, from a young age, I've really been into that kind of stuff. And then about a year and a half ago, I became a homeowner and I really wanted to create a home that was not only aesthetically beautiful, but energetically as well. We had lived in a house before that didn't have the best energy, and I knew there was some stuff going on there, and I really didn't want to bring that into our new house. And I knew that this was going to be a functional tool, feng shui that is, that could be used across multiple areas of my life.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because you're Cancer, am I right?
Hmm.
And that's like all about home and just feeling grounded and like cozy in your space. So I love that you're just like fully embodying that. And yeah, Tay, you're so intuitive too, like being able to pick up on energies and just like call it out, be like, something's not right here. Like we got to change this. And if anyone ever has the pleasure of seeing Taylor's home, well, you probably will on Instagram or something, but it's just gorgeous. And like you walk in and it's just like I feel grounded, I feel safe, I feel so cozy. Like I could just cozy up on a tea and chat with you forever. So you definitely did something absolutely right there.
Oh, thank you. And you are welcome anytime, but you already know that.
Love it. Okay, so I feel that probably most people have heard of feng shui or maybe heard those words, but maybe that's just because to me it feels kind of common. But for those who don't know, what is the study or the school or the teaching of feng shui? Is there, yeah, like something we can sort of define there? I know it's about spaces and homes and like directions, but maybe for someone who doesn't know what it is.
Absolutely. So feng shui is really all about understanding the way that you interact with your environment. And it's really all about the relationship between the energies of Mother Nature and people and our surroundings. So, feng shui is really all about where you are and when it is, like what time period, and really like how you're feeling in that moment and what that chapter is for you. And setting up your environment in a way that is most cohesive to that. And something that a lot of people might not know is feng shui is not a religion. Some people think that's what it is. And it's actually a 5,000-year-old practice that's based on an ancient Chinese book, which is called the I Ching. And it translates to the Book of Changes.
Mm.
And it also comes from Taoist philosophy. So, yeah, it's really about embracing the change and really bringing Mother Nature into that as well.
Okay, I love that so much. Just how you describe that, like it's like yeah, it's orienting yourself and your being with your physical environment and yeah, incorporating nature because we are nature and we live on planet Earth and really like aligning your energy and your physical life experience to have the best energetic sort of movement, right? And flow.
Mhm.
And like I mean, I guess mm, for those listening, like if you walk into a room and we probably all have different needs. I mean, personally, like I need a lot of windows and light, but I know, well, I don't know, but I think that might have something to do with like energy coming in and out, but maybe I'm wrong there. But like some people like, darker homes or like they paint their walls dark blue and then some people it's white and there must be a bit of an intuitive process for people when it comes to designing their home if they pay attention, I guess, of what they're drawn to and maybe that's linked to what they need.
Mhm, absolutely. In a lot of cases, it can be. Like, for example, myself, I really need the element of wood in my life. It's really lacking in my birth chart. And so in colors, green is related to wood. And anyone who knows me knows I am obsessed with green, whether it's clothes, whether it's the cabinets in my house, whether it's my bedding. And so I think a lot of people subconsciously know that they might be lacking something and they bring it in. But also, and I'll dive into this a little bit later, is, a lot of people think that just because something is aesthetic, that it's actually good feng shui, and it's totally opposite, A room can look beautiful, but you could have stuff in places that is really not doing you favors.
Mhm.
So diving into that is something that I'm, really intrigued into.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about because we each have our own personal needs and like it's I kind of see the parallels in astrology too because um there's four elements in astrology. I can't remember how many elements are in feng shui, but yeah, like if there's, someone with a lot of water or a lot of fire, like I'll recommend in a reading, like, spending time by water might be helpful for you to like sort of balance out the extra elements you have. So is it kind of similar for specific people in their homes?
Mhm. Absolutely, yeah. So in feng shui, there's 5 elements, and yeah, we look at, depending how, in depth people wanna go and what exactly they're looking to achieve, but you could read your birth chart and figure out what elements you have too much of or not enough of, and then, you know, um, plan your environment, your surroundings according to that.
That is so helpful. I feel like
Yes.
everyone needs a consultation with a feng shui consultant such as yourself. But seriously, like it's, we all the same way we all have physiological like body needs and like emotional needs and maybe spiritual needs to help us in this life. The whole home is a whole aspect, like, how much time do you spend in your home? Especially now, like, with working from home. I mean,
Mhm.
your office space, hello, like, you could have, the wrong well, I won't say the wrong, but maybe a not helpful color or, direction you're facing or a mirror in a certain spot, and it's like throwing money out the window.
Absolutely, yeah. The last couple years, as we've all spent a lot more time at home, I think it's important to really ground not only in your home, but also the outside of your home as well.
Wow, okay. We can get into, like, landscaping.
Yeah.
Brick colors and paint colors and all that stuff. Okay, so I have a question. So I feng shui is connected to like, the year starts at a different time than our Gregorian calendar. Um, can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe what this year might bring through the lens of feng shui?
Absolutely. So, in 2023, the new moon occurs in China on January 22nd, which marks the start of the Lunar New Year. So that is January 22nd, 2023. And later on today, we're actually going to talk about another school of Feng Shui that's called Flying Star. And the annual Flying Stars take into effect February 4th. And so what we usually do is from the end of December, we can begin up until February 4th. You would start making these changes for your flying star and have them done by February 4th. So that's kind of another part of a new year, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that the lunar calendar starts yeah, the new moon in Aquarius. I know it well. I have it in EST, so I think it's the 21st, but in China it would be the 22nd. And then yeah, there's a full moon 2 weeks after. So it's interesting because even in astrology too, there's like uh Western astrology, but then there's like Vedic astrology, and like there's just different, ways to interpret more or less like the same energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it all really overlaps, I find. So I know that last year, because there's always an animal, right? I think people have probably, what year were you born? The year of the, ox or the dog. I don't know them all. But last year I know was a tiger, and then there's an element associated with that. What's the shift this year for 2023?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so last year was a water tiger. And tigers, as most of us will know, are really like fierce, really go-getter. So last year could have been quite intense. And I don't want to say confrontational, but yeah, when you think of a tiger, you know, you think of intense, you think of fast-paced, you think of maybe acting before they, really thought things through. They like to pounce. Whereas this year's represented by the water rabbit.
Mm,
So, when we think of a rabbit, we think of like quiet and maybe polite and, um, really behind the scenes.
mm,
And rabbits are known to live a very long life. So in Feng Shui, they represent longevity. Um, and, you know, the rabbit, while it's less fierce, it's also very sly, like a fox,
mm,
they're behind the scenes. So
mhm.
a lot more of a calm year, but definitely still some action going on.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I even see that through astrology, and I can see the parallels in numerology as well, where we were just in, a 6 year, which is a little bit more well, I don't even know if grounded is the word, but it kind of reminds me, it's about getting organized and like being a little bit more diligent, and then like the 7 years more like pleasant and kind of receptive in a way. And I am totally generalizing here. There's so many more details, of course, and I'm sure you can say the same too with like the tiger energy and the rabbit. Like we can go deep, I'm sure. um but yeah, I'm kind of feeling the lighter energy, and I guess it hasn't quite started, but we're still sort of, feeling the lingerings of 2022. But I think, yeah, as we get into February, like things really start to shift. So that's a nice message. Let's embrace the rabbit
Hmm.
energy. That's excellent. Okay, so then we were gonna talk a little bit about, because everyone has their own, like, if you were born in the year, like I was born in the year of the monkey,
Hmm.
and then how deep does it go in terms of your personal, like, I don't even know what it's called, like your personal year in feng shui? Like, what does that mean? What does that look like?
So the thing that I love about feng shui is similar to an iPhone. It can be as easy and simple as you want it to be, or you can go as deep as you'd like and, get tools that most people don't even know exist. Right? So in terms of like you as a person, we can go so deep into, reading your birth chart, really, really analyzing that, similar to, astrology, human design, numerology, whatever it may be. But yes, everyone is going to be so different. But one of the big differences would be that you talked about is different years that you're born. So for 1992s, for example, like you said, you're a monkey. There's a lot that we would talk about based on the monkey itself. So you're a
Mm-hmm.
separate monkey within that, but at least you're still in that generalization, if that makes sense. Kind of like, if you're a Cancer, there's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a preset description for you, if you may.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay, how can we like, are there any um directions or elements or things like the collective can uh maybe focus on or take note of this year? Do you know any of those? I know, because I know there's so much information. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, like what uh, should we all turn our desks one way? Probably not. I mean, we all have our own chart, but
Well, I'll do it. Let's say I'll do a generalization for the sake of everyone. Let's talk about 1992s because that's what Kelsey is. That is a
okay.
monkey, like we said. So if you're born in 1992 and you're a woman, your personal energy number is 7. There's a different formula to calculate women's and men's. For today, we're just going to talk about the ladies. So, based on this number 7, I know Kelsey's life luck areas using a compass in her home. So, um, I would use a compass from Canadian Tire, something like that, what you used in Girl Guides, Beavers, whatever you took. Or you can also use a phone compass. They're just not as reliable.
Mm,
So, we would look at the life luck areas, which include wealth or success, health, love and relationships, and personal growth and career. And then the not so good ones are small accidents, disagreements, legal issues, and total loss.
mm.
So each year, um, those good and bad directions will change. And what you would do is you would use a compass in your house to find out where each direction is, to find out if you should move some of the stuff that's in the corner elsewhere. Does that
Mm.
make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So we all need to get a compass.
Yeah. Yes. And so your personal energy number, which is called a GUA number, is like your foundation. These directions and sectors are essentially forever. Um, but then, like I talked about how things change each year, that's called flying star. So, what we could talk about is I can go over the good directions that are your forever ones, and then I can talk about the flying star ones and a couple directions to really focus on this year, if that's what you're interested in.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, if that's not too much time, we can also just talk about this year. Um,
Sure.
maybe, yeah, maybe we'll focus on this year.
Yeah, so according to this year, there are different directions and sectors that are slightly different. There's wealth, relationships, victory and transformation, long-term success, heavenly luck, disagreements, accidents, betrayal, and misfortune. So for anyone who's born in 1992 who is a monkey, listen up. And you know what? I should say that you could also be born in 1980. You could also be born in 1968.
Mm.
So the Southwest this year brings double luck, meaning from your personal energy number, it represents health. But the flying star for this year, it represents victory and transformation. And the element of the Southwest is earth. So in the Southwest, we really want to be adding fire because that's the element that creates earth, or we want to add more earth to this direction. So you're adding earth to the Southwest, and that could be something like pottery, crystals, stones, earthy landscape photos that don't have a lot of greenery or water, all those types of things.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's good to know.
Is that
South,
interesting or is that
yeah,
confusing?
no. Southwest. It's like for 92 Southwest. But it's just like I'm just like sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, like everybody could use benefit from this information for their year and their birth
Mhm.
chart. Um, so what, and I think you, because we were speaking about this the other day, it's called something else other than a birth chart, right?
So it's called a Pat Chi or Bat Z. It depends. I don't know exactly the difference, but yeah, it's a Chinese slash feng shui birth chart.
Okay. So, and would you get a reading, say, or have someone come to your home like once a year? You know,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay. Like, I mean, yeah, because the energy shifts every year, right? For the collective, and there's, certain directions that contain yeah, on the flying star, like different eh, they hold different like life aspects. Like you said, like there's wealth and there's relationships and there's success, and then there's bad luck, more or less disagreements. So that changes every year. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So, um, what I recommend is, like I said, the personal energy number would be everyone's foundation. That is kind of what you want to lay out first, just like when you
Mm.
build a house. And then the flying star is more like furniture within that home. It changes each year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So think of like your energy number is the physical home. It does not move, it does not change. And your flying star is the furniture inside and it moves. So I would absolutely recommend changing your house every year. Like I said, during that time of the end of December up until February to really, really, really harness in the goodness that the following year will be bringing.
Okay. Wow. Life-changing information.
Yes, this is why, I mean, I never knew this before, but I'm so drawn to rearranging stuff about every 6 to 12 months. And I think
Yes.
intuitively, we just kind of know that change has to come.
100%. I always was rearranging my room. Yes, same as you. Every like Yeah, 6 to 12 months. I just did it. The house I live in is pretty small right now, so there's not a lot to work with, though, putting the vibes out there for a bigger space, hopefully in the next few months. But yeah, I just rearranged our room again, and I said to my partner the other day, I was like, just so you know, like you're in for like a lifetime of this. Like we're rearranging all the time because and sometimes that literally means taking apart furniture. But like, sorry, not sorry.
Oh, girl, I've moved so many things at this point, and my boyfriend is just used to it. But you know what? He'll be the first to admit that he notices a huge difference when things get moved. And he's also very intuitive and is getting good at, knowing where things are supposed to go according to feng shui. So, yes,
Oh, that's
partners up there.
yeah. Yeah, you kinda gotta get the whole family on board. I mean, I presume that that's where, like, we add layers to it, right? Like, then you wanna consider consider your partner's chart and your kid's chart, but, like, you do what you can. Don't wanna, like, obsess, but, um, yeah, just, like, moving a plant into a different corner or your salt lamp or your crystals or, um, whatever it is, like,
hmm Like a big
this
one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
For a big one last year for me, for example, was I had this beautiful snake plant in my room in this corner, and it looked so nice. And I sent my mentor some photos of my room. And, I explained to her just because she wasn't super familiar with my home, what the directions were. And she was like, Taylor, you need to get that plant out of your bedroom. For you, all you're doing is enhancing your illness this year. Like, you got to get it out.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. She's like, red flag, snake plant, gotta go.
Yeah. And now that wouldn't be advice for everyone. So
Yeah,
if you have plants in your bedroom right now, I'm not telling you to take them out, but
yeah.
they can be a draining energy or they can be enhancing something that you don't want to enhance. So, you know, back to what
Okay.
I talked about, just because something looks beautiful somewhere doesn't actually mean it's good feng shui.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, everyone who is trying to be an Instagram or TikTok designer these days by DIYing their homes, i.e. myself, um, on a energetic and spiritual level. Um, it might look good, but it might not be the best for you.
okay. Good to good to know. Okay, well, thank you, Tay, so much for sharing this. I feel we're probably going to have more episodes on the subject and potentially offerings or collabs. We'll see. But in the meantime, what do you have any offerings coming up and how can people find you?
Absolutely. So right now, the best way to find me would be on Instagram, and my handle is at Tay_living well. I'm about to open up my books for business, and at the moment, I'll be offering in-person and virtual consultations for your living space. Anyone who's going to be in Bali from February to May, I'll be there. If you have a home that you'd like me to come see, hit me up. If not, virtual is the way to go. And you can send me a DM for that. More offerings, including birth chart reading, to come later on this winter, early spring.
This is so exciting. I can't wait. I can't wait for yeah, we'll have to have you on for sure once those birth chart consultations are ready to be launched. But yeah, if you're in Bali, find Tay, find her on Instagram, and that's a very aesthetically pleasing place often. But you might come in and be like, yeah, I know that you want it to look like this, but you need some earth in here or something.
You never ever know. You'll have to book me to find out.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for having me.